Hi all, welcome to part 7, module 3 computer network. So during part 5 and 6 we were discussing that distance vector routing algorithm and its problem, that is the count to infinity problem. Now to overcome all this, people come up with an entirely different routing procedure called the link state routing. So the distance vector routing was used in ARPANET until 1979, and later on they moved to a different procedure. So that is the primary problem that caused its demise was that the algorithm often took too long to converge after the network topology changed due to the count to infinity problem. So that is right now it is clear for you how this count to infinity problem is leading to a very slow convergence when the network topology changes, particularly that good information spread faster and bad information spread slower, right? That second case. So consequently, it was replaced by an entirely new procedure or strategy called the link state routing. So the variants of the link state routing called intermediate system ISIS, the open system shortest path first OSPF, are the routing algorithms that are most widely used inside large networks and the internet today. So the idea behind link state routing is fairly simple and can be stated as 5 parts. So each router must do the following things to make it work. Step number 1, discover its neighbors and learn their network address. So the very first thing every router is supposed to do is to discover who are all their neighbors which are being directly connected to them, and learn their network address, maybe as a way of naming the neighbor. Now set the distance or the cost metric to each of the neighbors. So the distance vector, as you already know, can be of different metric, like it could be the actual distance in kilometer, or it can be the average or the mean delay. So like that you can set the distance metric, and after that every router will construct a packet telling all it has learned, that is the network address, the distance vector, and some other parameters. So with all these things together it will be constructing a packet. We call it as link state packet, right? So 3 steps were over. So first it will be learning its neighbors, followed by cost metric, and then setting up all of them into a link state packet. Now send this newly created link state packet to and receive packets from all other neighbors. So it will send that newly created link state packet to everyone in the network, and each one will be receiving such packets from other routers. So here something we are not talking about the neighbors, but we are sending the information about the neighbor to everyone in the network. So that is the main difference when it comes to distance vector routing. The information will be shared locally only, that is among the neighbors only, but here the information will be shared and information will be collected from everyone in the network to every routers, right? And from every router. So that is the main difference. Now what about the information? That is very small, in the sense only the neighbor information is being shared, but to everyone. But in distance vector, information about everyone in the network is shared with the neighbors. So just opposite. Now compute the shortest path to every router. So I mean that is the last step, the calculation of the shortest path procedure. So for that you can use the Dijkstra's algorithm. So in effect the complete topology is distributed to every router because the link state packets are being communicated to every router, and every router will be receiving such link state packet containing information about each one's neighbor in a single iteration, or we can say that the total network topology is distributed by a single communication of this link state packet throughout the network, right? We will see how these things are working. Now Dijkstra's algorithm can be run at each router to find the shortest path to every other router. So once everyone get an idea about the entire network topology, they can run Dijkstra's algorithm locally to find the shortest path. Now we will see these 5 steps one by one in detail, starting with the first step. So what is the first step? Discover the neighbors and learn their network address, right? So what about learning about neighbors? So whenever a router is booted, just come up, its first task is to learn who its neighbors are, right? So it accomplishes this goal by sending special hello packets. The hello packet or the echo packet, something which you already familiar with in distance vector routing also. So just a ping, I told you detail about it, right? The ICMB ping message is what this hello. Internet Control Message Protocol, the Packet Internet Gopher. This ping command is something familiar to all of you. So by sending special hello packets on each point-to-point line which is directly connected to that particular router which is newly booted up, it will get information about the neighbor. So how it will get information about the neighbor? The neighbor is expected to reply it back, right? So the router on the other end is expected to send back a reply giving its name. So name in the sense it is the IP address, of course, because what we need is a globally unique name, and we have the so-called IP address to deal with. So these names must be globally unique. So that is a requirement, because this is some information that we are communicating globally to every other router. So there should not be any confusion in the future, right? So because when a distance router later hears that three routers, an example, for example, a distance vector is hearing the fact that three routers are connected to F. It is essential that it can determine whether all these three mean the same F or not. So like that, confusion should not be there. If someone is communicating a particular router name to be F, the same should be communicated by everyone else. So the naming method being used should be globally unique. So a good way to do this is by means of IP address, the normal IPv4 address or v6 address. You can make use of it for this purpose. So when two or more routers are connected by a broadcast link, example the so-called classical Ethernet, the situation is slightly more complicated. We will see that. So what is the problem here? So here, the 9 routers and a broadcast line is being shown. A, B, C, D, E. So 5. So here 4. So totally 9 routers, and they are connected by a shared broadcast LAN. Now the problem here is, with this LAN at this point there will be different routers, but all these routers are representing this LAN only, right? So if you want, you can represent this router, let's say like R1, R2, R3 differently, and you can construct the graph. But this is something R1, R2, R3, all of them are just part of a shared broadcast LAN, right? So as it is a broadcast LAN, instead of using 3 different routers like this, why don't you logically visualize this as a graph like this? So what is done is the entire LAN is represented by a single router. That could be this R1, R2, R3. Anyone can take the role of this N, and all these routers A, C and F are being connected to this, so that the information being communicated will be simple, and it is now A will be referring this N, C, F, all of them are referring N. So who will take the role of N? So that is something the LAN can decide. Okay, so this is the way we are dealing with the distributed a broadcast link like a classical Ethernet link. Okay, so this is something that makes the process simpler. So modeling the broadcast link, the figure in the previous slide illustrates a broadcast LAN to which 3 routers A, C and F are directly connected. So each of these router is connected to one or more additional routers as shown in the figure, the other routers. So the broadcast LAN provides connectivity between each pair of the attached routers. However, modeling the LAN as a many point-to-point links like R1, R2, R3 in that way, that increases the size of the topology and leads to some unwanted wasteful messages. So a better way to model the LAN is to consider it as a single node, right, as shown in the figure. Here we introduced a new artificial node, that is that En, as shown before, to which A, C and F are connected. So one designated router so this is what we call as a designated router. On the LAN is selected to, any one of this router in the LAN can be selected to play the role of N in the routing protocol. The fact that it is possible to go from A to C, the communication is now through A, N, C, right? Because it has to come to N and then to C. So ideally N represents the underlying broadcast link. That's all. One representative router. So that about the first step, the discovering the neighbors. So how every router will be, as soon as it is booted up, how it will be getting information about its neighbors by means of the hello packets, right? Now setting link cost. So the next thing is, of course, it has to determine how long it have to travel to reach the other one. whether it is the distance in kilometer or it can be the propagation delay, whatever it is, right? So the link state algorithm requires each link to have a distance or a cost metric. So this metric will vary, and depending on the situation we can use any metric as we wish, but anyway on metric is needed, and the metric for finding the shortest path. So the metric we will try to minimize, right? So we will find out a path to be the best, which is having the total weight to be minimum. So that also you have to keep in mind. So the cost to reach neighbors can be set automatically or it can be configured by the network operator, right? So a common choice is to make the cost inversely proportional to the bandwidth of the link, for example. So what we are doing is the cost is inversely proportional to bandwidth of the link. So, suppose 1 gigabits per second Ethernet is represented to have a cost of 1. So 1 by 1 giga, like that you are getting this one. Then what about 100 megabits per second Ethernet? 1 by 100 mega, right? 1 by 100 mega. Right, you can multiply numerator and denominator by 10, it will be 10 by 1000 mega, and that is 10 by 1 giga. 1000 mega is giga, right? The previous case 1 giga you represented by 1, right? That is 1 by 1 giga. So here this 100 megabits per second you will be representing by 10, right? So hope you understood the process. So simply this 1 giga you taken as the basis with a cost of 1, so that 100 mega equivalently is inversely proportional to 1 by 100 with that inversely proportional constant to be 10, like that. So 1 gigabits per second, 1 by 1 giga, like that, that one you taken. So here it will be 1 by 100 mega. So when you are equalizing it with the 1 giga, you can multiply numerator denominator by 10. So 10 will be the cost. So that this 100 mega is now 1 giga, right? That 1 giga you represented by 1. So 100 megabits per second you will be represented by 10, by a cost of 10. So that logic is clear. I hope so. Yeah. So that is one way. So this makes higher capacity paths a better choice, because as the capacity increases, say from 100 megabits per second, the cost is given to be 10. When it is increased to 1 gigabits per second, the cost is 1, making 1, we are focusing on shortest path, right? So it will be returning the path containing 1 gigabits per second as its shortest one, as it's having a minimum cost. So a better capacity path is being outputted as an efficient path. So that is what is preferred, right? So accordingly you have to set the cost. As we are trying to minimize the cost, the suitable criteria should be taken. So this is one way of choosing the cost. Now another way is like if the network is geographically spread out over an area, the delay of the links may be factored into the cost, so that paths over shorter links are better choices. So the one with the shorter link means the path with the minimum delay, shorter delay is better. So for that you have to find out the delay, accordingly you have to give the cost, right? So how to find out the delay? As usually you can make use of the echo packets, just like the hello we used in the previous case. The most direct way to determine the delay is send over the line a special echo packet, and the other side is required to send back a reply immediately by measuring the round trip time. So how long it taken for the echo packet to reach the other end and it is coming back. So that is the total time, the round trip time, and dividing it by 2, the one direction delay will be can be calculated. The sending router can get the reasonable estimate of the delay, the usual procedure, and that it can make us a cost, so that the one with the minimum delay is chosen as an efficient path. So these are all different ways of setting link cost. So first step number 1 is about locating or learning information about the neighbor. Step number 2 is about setting the link cost. So once the information about the neighbor is finalized and the cost is fixed, what we can do as a third step is building the link state packets. So link state packets will be containing all this information together into a single packet being constructed at each and every router. So once the information needed for exchange has been collected, say from the neighbors using echo hello packets, the next step is for each router to build a packet containing all this data. So the packet starts with an identifier of the sender, so the name of the sender, maybe of course IP address of the sender, followed by the sequence IP address, and all. For the time being you can understand that's the name of the sender. IP address, what it is we will see, okay, followed by the sequence number, a unique number attached, and age, of course we will see what is this age information later on, and a list of neighbors of this particular router. Okay, this is what is needed for us, right? So everybody is now preparing a link state packet containing informations like what is my name and what are all my neighbors, and a sequence number and an age information. And this link state packet, it will be communicating with everyone else in the network by means of flooding. We will see as the next process. So the cost to each neighbor is also given. Building the link state packet is easy. So the hard part is determining when to build such a link state packet. So of course one possibility is to build them periodically, like when you want to update the routing table. So that is the decision making criteria here. So you can do it periodically. If you want to update the routing table periodically, you can make a link state packet periodically and you can communicate with others at, say, at regular intervals. Or another possibility is to build them when some significant event occurs, such as a line or a neighbor is going down or coming back, come up again, or changing its properties appreciably. So in such events you can prepare the link state packet and you can communicate with others. So this is how the link state packet occurs. So here you can see a typical graph representation of a network, and these are all the link state packets of each of the router. So if you look at router A, an identifier of this so-called router, right, and its sequence number, age, and these two parameters we will see what it is. And anyway, sequence number is something familiar for you, age we will see soon. And who are all the neighbors of A? B is a neighbor, right, B is a neighbor, E is another neighbor. So B with the distance of 4, and similarly E with the distance of 5, right. Similarly, at node B, sequence number, age, who are all neighbors of B? So if you focus on B, who are all the neighbors of B? A with a distance of 4, right? A with a distance of 4, C with a distance of 2, and F with a distance of 6. So like that the link state. So this is about a link state packet. Similarly at C, D, E and F, everyone will create their link state packet. Now this packet is ready at each router, and in the next iteration or in the very first iteration they will communicate this packet with everyone else. So just you have to be very clear at this point. I am repeating again, if you look at the distance vector routing, so this packet, the information will be more in the sense, so here we have information only about the neighbor. If you are looking at A, information is there regarding B and E only. But if it is a distance vector routing table, this will extend with the information of all other routers of the network like C, D, E, F, right. So E is already added, up to F will be added. So it will be a large information. But even though at initially we will not be knowing the distance, so we will make these entries are infinity, and that will be communicated, something we already seen. But here it is not like that. These things were not there. Instead the link state packet is containing information only about the neighbor. Now in distance vector router, once we have this kind of a distance vector table, it's a column, only this distance vector alone we will communicate with the neighbors only. But here this link state packet, it will be communicating to everyone else. A will pass this to B, C, D, E, F. Similarly B will pass to everyone, and after one iteration everybody will be getting link state packet from everyone else. So if you look at A will be getting link state packet of B, link state packet from C, link state packet from D, E and F. So together once A get link state information from all others, it is getting knowledge about the entire topology, so that it can map using a graph inside, right. Similarly B can also construct a map, and it is supposed to be same globally is provided these things are executed faster, and then they will locally run the Dijkstra's algorithm and they find the shortest path, and that is what they will be following for the routing purpose. So this is the idea, and we covered 3 steps. 2 more steps we will see in the next part. Okay, so we can stop this presentation. Thanks for watching.